Welcome into the Dental Profits webinar series. You don't want to miss today. We've got the super coach. Stay with us. Hi, folks. I'm Sean Crabtree.
And I'm Cameron Bailey.
Welcome into Growth Profits.
Coming to you live each week.
We don't want to change the way you do business.
We want to change the way you're thinking about your business.
We want you to have better results, happier clients, and make more money.
Let's get it started.
Welcome into Dental Profits webinar series. It's all about you having happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. I am really pumped about this conversation. Today we have somebody who is very special, and that is Michael Burt, the super coach. Coach, welcome in. I have to tell you, you are a wealth of knowledge, information, energy, and everything else that there is imaginable.
And another great Tennessean.
And it couldn't be any better. We're able to have another great Tennessean. Coach Burt, welcome in, sir. You are a big name all over the world. So glad you could join us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And you guys, I believe people do business with other people that believe the same things they do. So you guys are progressive. You're growing. You're pushing the message out. You're my kind of people, and your Tennessee people. That's a good thing.
Well, that's very kind of you, sir. Coach, for those people who are listening that don't know, I know they're probably everybody's heard of Super Coach, but give us your story. Some of the things that maybe they don't know about you. Who are you? What's the story for Michael Burt?
Well, I'm going to actually do something I typically don't do. I'm going to start where I am today, and then I'm going to work backward versus start the other way. Over the last 10 years, I have been building a multi-million-dollar coaching business that basically coaches entrepreneurs, sales professionals, anybody that's interested in growing. And we do that through a program called Monster Producer. And as a monthly systematic coaching cycle where we are coaching up to 600 people at a time on a rhythmic base to help them achieve some type of monster results in their life. We coach them through very specific things: how to explain their services, how they work a selling system, how they follow up like professionals, how they extract referrals, and then ultimately how they become people of interest. Our objective is about a 43% increase for every person we coach in a one-year cycle. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 to 11 years of my life. Prior to that, I was a women's basketball coach at the second largest high school in Tennessee called Riverdale High School. I took a place that had never won a championship in 30 years, and in 10 years finally got that puppy up and running, and was fortunate enough to win the first of what will become 7 championships for Riverdale. And so a lot of my coaching background was because I was a real coach, trying to get a group of people that didn't necessarily always like each other from the same socioeconomics or economic backgrounds, and to get them to a much higher level of performance. And prior to that, I was a deep disciple of Covey's. So everything I do is whole person theory, body, mind, heart, and spirit. And I really, from 18 to 25, learned how to inner engineer people to win at the highest levels in all 4 parts of their nature. So that's kind of the foundation of who I am. Real coach, coaching real people every day. And now I'm just coaching people at the business level to achieve some level of much higher result than what they're currently getting.
And the similarities, Coach, are, just literally one by one. I mean, what it takes to. I've never coached a basketball team, but I've always coached sports. Baseball is my thing, and I tried to explain that to somebody the other day. I mean, it is exactly the same. Coaching businesses and coaching people to results that they don't perhaps think are possible. Coaching them past what's going on in their head, getting them to work together. I mean, the similarities are endless, right? They're exactly identical.
Yeah, I think when you think about this, I want to draw a parallel. When I was a high school coach, moms and dads would drop their daughters off to me at 14 years old, and they all said the same thing: Coach, my daughter's got a lot of potential. She just needs something. And that something was confidence, structure, discipline, accountability, focus. And then at 25, when I wrote my first book, what was interesting was now big companies began to call me: Dale, State Farm, National Healthcare, all of these companies. And they all said the same thing: we have a lot of good people. They have a lot of potential. They just need something. And it was the exact same things: structure, confidence, focus. I actually think that we all have missing structures in our lives, and we need the help of an outside person who can help us find and fill those missing structures. So a good coach is evaluating and helping you find and fill these key missing structures. Once you fill these, then you're off to the races.
Everybody in life needs a coach.
That's my belief. If you want to get better, but I do think that adults, we've got a guy looking at a program in Knoxville that played in high school, college, was in the in the NFL, and his whole life he's had a coach. And so one of the people trying to get him in the program said, "Did you have a coach when you're in elementary school?" "Yes." "Did you have one in high school?" "Yes." "Did you have one in college?" "Yes." "Did you have one in the NFL?" "Yes." "Then why don't you have one now, man? Because if you were constantly growing, which he was, why would you not have one now?" So adults get to a static point in their life. They were dynamic at some point. They reach a static place, and they really need the help of another person. Some people don't understand that, so we have to help them understand.
How do you, a great question is, how do you create that in people that you're coaching, whether it's on the basketball court or whether it's in business? How do you create the desire that as we say in the South, that want to? Yeah. How do you give somebody enough want to go out there and attack?
Well, I do think that, in a dog, a nice puppy that's sweet, under the right circumstances and with the right training, activates what's called a prey drive. And the prey drive is an instinctual ability of a person to see something optically and go get it. Well, I think a good coach tries different things to activate that prey drive. And one of those things is to eliminate confusion for another person. Confusion is randomness in motion. Confusion is when you have a problem that seems to have no clear solution to it. So a lot of people don't have clarity about their B. They're at A, they want to go to B. A good coach will force them to get clear, like specifically, where are you going? How can I help you get there? How do I activate this in you? But a good coach should know how to activate the prey drive in people who have a desire. And some people, they don't have a desire to get better. And not everybody's going to line up, and that's why the world's the way it is.
Yeah. Where do you, Coach, what and I know you've done the stats on this, and this is why I asked this question. I've been doing this for 20 years in a specialized niche. You're much broader and much bigger. Sometimes we call it generating the thirst. Yeah. Having the water is great, but if there's not a thirst, then there's no desire to swallow. And so we spend a lot of time generating that thirst. I'm curious, with the numbers that you've run, you've been doing this for a decade. With the numbers that you've run, what are the stats that you find in terms of those that seek out the water and those that don't, and how do you handle that?
Well, when you study the law of diffusion and innovation, this is something I began studying not long ago, really 2 years ago, maybe. It tells me that for every time I share my message with a person or a group of people, 2.5% of those people are going to be innovators. They're going to immediately get it. They're going to jump on board. They've been looking for something like this. There's 13.5% of the population, which are going to be early adopters. That means they're going to have to see it 1 to 2 times, but they're in. Right. That counts for about 16% of the total population. Now, the reason this is critical is because today I'm getting on a bus. I'm going to Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to share my message twice with 500 people. Here's what those numbers tell me. Out of every 350 people, it's 52.8. 52.8 of those people in that room are going to be innovators or early adopters. So when I speak to 500, there's going to be about 104 people in that room who will, after seeing me one time, be very interested. They're going to buy my books. They're going to be interested. They're going to come over and talk to me. Some of them may sign up for the coaching program that day. Okay. Then there's going to be a percentage of people, 34%, that are going to need to see it again. They're going to need to see it 3 to 5 times. Then there's a percentage, 34%, that need to see it 7 to 15 times. And then there's a percentage, 16%, which are laggards. You couldn't move in with those people and they wouldn't get it. So it don't matter. so, what I do, this was helpful for me because when I go into any room, if it's 30 people, I know there's 4.8. There's 5 of them in the room that are going to sign up, that are going to be committed. When I spoke at 10X, we signed up 167 people. The numbers very seldom lie to me. And so I'm only looking for a person that's looking for me. And when I come into their life, they go, this is the guy for me. I've been looking for a guy like this. I like his cadence. I like his demeanor. I like his methodology. I'm in. And so that's the way I sell today. I used to think I could get everybody. Now I go in thinking, look, I'm going to get 100 of these people. And out of the 500, then that's okay. That's who I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's good advice.
I think our audience on the show, they're dental professionals and service professionals, and I think they have that challenge that they don't get in front of enough people, right, to be able to create that law of diffusion with the innovators and the early adopters. And they feel bad. They go through rejection, right? If I present a treatment plan to a patient and the patient doesn't accept it, it hurts me. It's rejection, and they don't know how to deal with that a lot of times.
Well, I just say there's no such thing as rejection. Some will want what you have. Some won't. So what? We do have to go through 30 people to find the 4.8. We do have to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the prince. Whatever. And I understand that. So we're on the phone today selling from 9 to 11. From 9 to 11 is when we outbound prospect. We don't deal with anything that happened in the past during that period. And I'm on the phone with the guy who says, I came, to be honest with you, I really didn't feel it like I wanted to feel it. And I said, well, specifically, what did you not like about it? What are you looking for? Well, when I really get down to it, the guy's got $90,000 of credit card debt. It's not that he didn't feel it, just he didn't think he can afford it. And so, a lot of people, especially in the South, will give you, they'll give you misdirection. And so I've just learned to ask very clear questions to people, specifically, what did you not like? And I pin a guy down and I say, okay, let's get down to the core problem here. And a lot of people will then ultimately tell me, well, here's my real problem. They didn't want to tell me that up front, but if you become really good at asking questions, you can find out what the real objection is.
Coach, let me ask you this. Different altogether subject. You okay if I keep asking the questions, sir?
Yeah.
If you want to jump in. Let me ask you something, Coach. We spend a lot of time talking about a point of clarity. And we use that phrase a lot. You mentioned earlier that, tying into I use the term clarity of desire to talk about what you were speaking about earlier with prey drive and so forth, having people attached to really where it is that they want to be, figure out the why behind that, figure out the what behind that, right? That's a point of, that's a clarity of desire. But, when I look at you, and I'm not going to ask you how old you are because I know that you're younger than I am. But when I see your energy, when I see what you're pouring into a daily basis to help people, whether that's, you're all over social media. You have a very high energy level. I'm curious.
Big motor.
A big motor, right. What my experience is that everybody has something that's happened in their life that gives them that real point of clarity. For me, years ago, it was a shotgun blast to the head. That was an interesting story. But what's the point of clarity for Michael Burt? Or maybe there was more than one.
Yeah, I think I go back to early in my life. I was raised by a single mother. She used to take me to the ball field. She was working 2 jobs. The ball field was a cheap babysitter. And so when I would go down to the ball field, I was around coaches all the time for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
So as early as 4, 5, and 6 years old, man, I would be hanging out with coaches, watching how they pour into people. And I began to hear this from all of the coaches around me. Son, one of these days you're going to be a great coach. I was just curious. I was inquisitive. I asked questions. I did everything. So that really became, hey, I kept hearing it over and over. It was affirmed so much in my life that I knew from a very early age that I was supposed to be coaching people. Now, where the specific prey drive comes from, and I have really tried to figure that out because I do have a big engine. I do see things through to their logical conclusion, and I did come from the coaching world, so it wasn't uncommon for us to get there at 6:30 in the morning and go home at midnight. That was just, we didn't recognize time systems. We didn't recognize 30 minutes for lunch. So when I brought that to corporate America, the first big contract I had was with about a $2 billion bank. And man, they gave me a little team of people that were underneath me to drive this big initiative. And the CEO called me one night and he said, man, you can't work these people like this. You can't have them there at 6:30 and send them home at midnight. And I'm like, well, do you want to drive this initiative or not? You hired me to drive it. I'm driving it. You tell me, do you want to do it or do you not want to do it? Because this is what it takes to do it. And, but I think I just have a drive in me. And I still really, to be honest with you, I'm 41 years old and I don't know where that drive comes from, to be honest with you. I have a deep desire to do something big in the world, a deep desire to be an international thought leader, a deep desire to impact people the way Covey impacted me, a deep desire to coach and constantly be doing bigger things. And I don't specifically know where it comes from, other than watching my mom scratch and claw for everything she had early on. I think she did instill a lot of that prey drive. My daughter has a lot of that prey drive at 5 years old. So I can see, some of these things. So it's hard for me to pinpoint the one thing, but the point of clarity was 6 years old. Son, you're going to be a great coach.
Wow.
I love what you said, pour into people. That's a great way to phrase that. And I think that's certainly, the way we look at what we do, and certainly the coaches that have impacted my life, pouring into people that's a really good phrase for that. I love what you do, Coach.
What are the top 3 challenges that you see on a daily basis that entrepreneurs have, that our listeners are going through right now? They're going through. We know they're going through. What are those challenges and how do they overcome them?
Well, I think when you look at entrepreneur, I define that as a person that takes a lower level resource to a higher level of productivity. And an entrepreneur obviously gets paid when they sell something. What I see, which is why I built the program the way I have, is they struggle with 3 or 4 big things. They struggle with how they explain their services. They struggle with how they work a selling system and generate leads. They struggle with how they follow up. They struggle to extract referrals out of their current relationships. Those are business things almost every business struggles with. Now, the personal entrepreneur struggles with mechanical mode, burnout, lack of success has become numb to them in some instances where they've had success. I'm coaching people earning millions of dollars a year personal income, and they're bored. They're in a static state. They've reached a different level of complacency in their life. They're looking for what's next in their life. So I see pretty much everything in a given day, but more than anything, people just lack structure. They lack a growth structure. It's like, I want to grow, but I'm confused about what I should do. And so because I'm an old basketball coach, to me, everything's a game of probability. Selling is a game of probability. And so what I try to do is bring clarity. Here's how your day should be structured. We should be training every day at 8:30. From 9 to 11, we make outbound calls. From 1 to 3, we solve operational issues. From 3 to 5, we clean up. I try to get people in a structure, and I say, it looks like you're confused about how to attack a day. So I've created a planning system. I've created, certain technology to help people do that. And that's kind of my way of bringing structure to their confusion of how they go out there and grow something.
Awesome. You mentioned mechanical mode. What is mechanical mode?
Well, when you think about 3 modes, I think there is rejuvenated, which means to make young again. You're excited. You're on fire. You're dynamic. Then there is mechanical mode, which would be static, stuck, complacent, in a rut, going through the motions. And then there would be entropic or burnout, which is where you're just lost all joy and feeling for what you do. Listen, there's days that I feel burned out after coaching for 20 something years. If people think that I wake up motivated every morning, then that would be a lie, because I don't. There's days I wake up and I'm tired and I'm in a mechanical mode. I have to crank that engine up. I have to find typically a good day off for me, one good day off for me, listening to the right people, and I'm ready to go again. But when you coach as many people as I do, then, one of the biggest things I see is just a letdown. People start and they stop. They start and they don't finish. They start and they don't commit. They're on fire one day. They want to quit the next day. And that's something that really wears on me. Is a person can say, well, Coach Burt, your material changed my life and I'm doing the biggest things in the world, but I don't feel like coaching this month. I want to quit. And, it's just hard for me because I believe in a long obedience in the same direction. I believe in mastery versus cotton candy. I believe in if you want to be great at anything, you show up every day whether you feel like it or not. I don't consult with my feelings whether I want to go do something. And so what I'm trying to get a person to think like that. I'm like, come on, man. If you're going to be great, this is what you got to do. And too many people don't, they just don't want to make that commitment. That's why you hear me say cotton candy. I don't believe in cotton candy. It tastes good for a second, but then it goes away.
One of the things we deal with all the time when we're coaching our clients is, it's taking on the ownership of someone else's goal, someone else's success. I'm taking that ownership on. And when I take that ownership on, I'm like you, Coach, I'm taking it on, son. I'm on it. And then the fact of when they let me down, or when they don't follow through, or when they don't take it to that limit, I'm taking on that. And it'll beat you down. It'll wear you down, man.
Well, it'll break your heart if you're not careful. And there'll be a lot of times you go home at the end of the day. But here's what I tell people. Never let another person stand between you and your destiny. And when you place your destiny in other people's hands, it's going to be a jeopardy, because there are going to be people that let you down. There are going to be people that don't follow through. And like I said, I see it every day because I coach so many people. But look at the numbers. Out of 350 people in my coaching program, 52.8 of those are going to be serious. Mm-hmm. Out of 600, there's going to be a little over 100. Those other people don't have the engine. They don't have the drive. They don't have the commitment. They won't do what it takes. They may talk it, but they can't do it. And that's just the nature of the world, which is why a small percentage of people dominate. A small percentage of people own all the wealth in the country, because they're willing to go do it.
Play the numbers.
The numbers game.
Play the numbers. Hey, I'm curious, Coach. You a moment ago you were talking about 3 of the challenges that you see, and let me throw one at you that may be a little bit I don't know, maybe you experience this, maybe you don't, but I've learned over the last 20 years, in the niche that we work with, that you mentioned sales. You do a lot of sales training. There is my experience is that there's a belief that you can comment on this. My experience is that a lot of times these guys, no matter what service industry they're in, they're excited about the tactical, technical, clinical aspects of the thing that is their business, whatever that is. HVAC, CPA, attorney, dentist, whatever it is. And the concept of sales is somehow beneath them.
Even the word sales, even the word sometimes just makes them feel all icky.
What do you say about that, Coach?
Well, in my opinion, when you look at what sales really is, which is the exchange, I think money only changes hands when problems are solved. Another person is exchanging their money for the value you create because you solved a problem for them. I see work as the distribution channel for a person's talent. So for this to work, we have to take our talent, distribute it to the world, solve their problem, and in exchange of us solving their problem, getting them to a much better state, they compensate us for that. Now, when you look at it like that, it's really about how do we promote our message to people? How do we line up and do business with other people that believe the same things we do? How do we use our talents to solve their problems? And you can't help another person unless they commit.
That's right.
I think in a lot of the industries I see, whether it be doctors, dentist offices, whether it be attorneys that we coach, that just wasn't part of their formal training. And so as part of their formal training, they were taught a skill, but they weren't taught how to sell. They weren't taught how to drive revenue. They weren't taught how to follow up appropriately. They weren't taught the real things they need to learn to run a successful business. And because of that, they resist those things. And, most dentist offices are generating business. You got to go somewhere. If they do a good job, but if I was running a dentist office, let me tell you, we would have an outbound campaign. We would be very aggressive with how we go out and share a message, because we got a big mission of helping more people on planet Earth. And we can't do that unless we get people in the doors to show them what we can do for them.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't get to do the technical, tactical, clinical aspects of what you're great at unless you can sell it. It's great to be super good at a particular thing, but if
nobody knows about it, you can't sell it, it doesn't matter.
Or, do you believe in it enough that it's important?
Right. See, here's what I would say. Here's what I would say to a person. How do you justify hiding all of that special and potential that you have and not sharing it with the world or with more people? How do you justify that to yourself?
Great question.
Because if you believe it's really good, why would you want everybody on planet Earth to have it? Have you had revelation about your product and service? Do you have conviction about it? And if you've had conviction, why aren't you taking action? You see, what 10X taught me is that I could be as good as those other people that are national stars if I just got in front of enough people. So why wouldn't I want to get in front of more people if it's about my message? If it's about how I believe every person needs a coach in their life, why wouldn't I want to go out and distribute that message to the world in a bigger way? And that's really what the sales process is. It's about promotion. It's about selling. It's about overcoming fear and objection. It's about delivering consistently over and over, and about the referability that it could be created. And if the energy's right, and if you truly get your clients to a much better place, then organically it should be growing. But
Exactly.
but it could grow a whole lot more if you had an outbound sales attack.
A whole lot more. Yeah. And at the end of the day, how could you justify holding that back? That's a great question. I'm going to take that away. That's a good one. If you're listening to this or while you're riding down the road, you should pull over and write that one down. That is a Coach Michael Burt-ism, the super coach. So I mean, I think you're right, Coach. I mean, that's a great question. You know, how do you justify holding back? At the end of the day, if I really, you know, if I enjoy helping people at the highest level and I feel like I'm really good at it, then why in the world wouldn't I want to scream that from the mountaintops?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Why wouldn't I want everybody to know?
Well, a good coach should challenge your assumption, should challenge your thought pattern. So I spend a lot of my time redirecting people. And well, I don't really want to say, I may ask that question. How can you justify having something as good as you do, as good as it is, and not sharing it with more people? Have you had conviction about your product or service or not? Have you had revelation about your product or service or not? Do you believe that you help people get to a better state or not? Because if you did, why would you want to hide it? So I push people, and people expect that from me because I'm a coach, you know, and they expect me to try to dig in and kind of pull it out of them. And then they go, man, I like you because you're intense and positive. See, lots of people, when they get more intense, they become negative.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I made up my mind, probably 35 years old. I'm going to be real intense with people, but I'm going to be real positive. I want them to say, man, I love being coached by that guy.
I like that. I think the key to what you said there, Coach, is the belief. If you don't believe in your product, your goods, or your services, you're never going to be able to maximize your revenue for your business, because it's going to come across when you're communicating with your clients, with your patients, whoever you're communicating with. If you don't have that internal belief, you're not going to be able to create value for it.
Coach, let me ask you this. How many books have you written?
I've written 12. 13 is on its way, but 12 out in the market.
13 is on its way. So what's the next book for Coach Michael Burt?
The one that's outright that's about to come out is called The Accountable Church, which is how churches can remain in a dynamic state by using lots of business principles. And I started writing that book because I do cross over between faith and business quite a bit. And my pastor at my church asked me to coach him for a season. And as I got in there and started coaching him, 7,000 people, growing church, I began to see all of these structures that we use in the business world to keep people engaged and dynamic and in a rhythm. And I began to say, man, we don't really have these at the church. Like, I come on Sunday, and then, you know, there's really nothing going on for me on Monday until I come back on Wednesday night to my small group. And if we could just keep people in a forward process and a rhythm and deepen the content, I think it would really help them in their spiritual walk. And so he said, man, you got to write a book on that. So I sat down and wrote The Accountable Church. And then I read it, and I felt like a whiny Christian. And I said, I got to come and, you know, because there's a lot of responsibility on me, the person going, just like there is on the church, to provide structures for us. So there's a few tweaks I want to make to that one before I bring it to the market.
That's awesome, Coach. 13. Big number, lucky number 13 coming up next.
Wow.
You have worked with a lot of folks. Let me ask you this. Just a couple of I know we're going to be short on time in a minute. What is your biggest regret, and what's your biggest success, Coach?
My biggest regret is that I think from 20 to 30, although I was a very successful coach, I do think there was a lot of collateral damage. I think I was singularly focused on one thing at the expense of a lot of other things. And I think I could have been so much more of an ambassador. I think I could have been in the business of turning people on versus turning people off. I just didn't know how.
Right.
You know, so if I could go back and relive that, I think now I'm more of an ambassador. I include people a lot more. I really learned that, you know, you don't want to be successful and have people resent you because of the way you treat people. And I think although you can achieve something, that you can not burn a lot of bridges, but have a lot of collateral damage in the process. So now I'm more focused on the whole. So that was a big regret for me from 20 to 30, but I had very little guidance. I think my biggest successes were taking a place, winning a championship. My biggest successes today are building a company, helping hopefully thousands of people around the country. Speaking at 10X was a big success for me because I was on stage with some of the biggest names in the world. And I think you need these credibility indicators that indicate you're climbing, where you're climbing to, just more brand recognition, help more people. So that was a big successful moment for us.
Coach, in one of your books, you give credit to somebody for sort of, and I may have the wording wrong here, but basically introducing you to the concept of the EOS that you train with now, right?
Yeah, basically, the person who created the explanation of services is a guy named Tom Love. Tom Love created explanation of services. He just happened to create it while he was in my coaching program and after he read my book, Person of Interest. So Tom gives me a lot of credit for helping him get the clarity that he needed. Now, since he had that clarity, his income has quadrupled since being in our coaching program. He now earns millions of dollars, and he gives a lot of credit to those clarifying moments that he had while being in my coaching program. Now he's at the highest level of my coaching program called the Millionaires Club, which means he invests at least $40,000 a year in his own personal coaching with me. And I told him one day, I said, Paul Tudor Jones pays Tony Robbins $1 million a year to coach him. Well, how do we get to that level? He said, well, we're well on our way, Coach. We're well on our way. But the EOS is a game changer. It's a structure and a framework to explain your services.
So
go into it a little bit, Coach.
Coach, tell us. Let's ask him a question. So, Coach, tell us what the EOS is, and tell us your definition of the EOS. Tom Love created it. Tell us about it.
Well, the number one question you're going to get asked around the country when you meet a new person is, what do you do? What do you do for a living?
Right.
That's a social setting question. But all of us are going to pitch our services on the phone, in person. I'm pitching my services right now when I'm sharing my message with the world. When I make posts, so you need a framework in how you explain what it is you do. But people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. So when I say people do business with other people that believe the same things they do, that's why this is the framework I use. I first say, this is what I believe. I believe everybody needs a coach in life. I believe a good coach can change your life. I believe those that have a coach earn 3 and 4 times the amount of money than those that don't. Okay. I believe that because I don't think you can see the picture when you're inside the frame. So I tell you what I believe, and then I back it up with my premise. I don't think you can see the picture when you're inside the frame. At that moment, I typically either have agreement or not agreement. And that's how I know very quickly if I have a real prospect. If I say I believe everybody needs a coach in life, and the first words out of a person's mouth is, well, I'm already really good. I don't know how it could get any better. Then I know that I don't have a prospect. So it goes like this. Here's what I believe. Here's why I believe it. Here's what it is I do. Here's how I do it different than everybody else. Here's everybody I'm doing it for and the success that we've had. If I could do that for you, what would stop us from getting started? So there's a framework and a rhythm. Now, anytime I do interviews, anytime I write books, anytime I do social media posts, anytime I make a pitch, I lead with, hey, I believe everybody needs a good coach in life. I believe there's 3 states: dynamic, static, and entropic. If I could keep you in a dynamic state, get you a 43% increase like I'm doing for all these other people, what would stop us from at least sitting down and discussing it? Or you coming and experiencing it live, which is the concept of promotion. See, what I do is I have a clear belief. I take that belief out to the world, and then I have something to sell people, whether it be an online academy, through my Monster Growth Academy, where it be my coaching program. If they haven't seen enough to take action, then I push them to come experience it live one time for free. Now they've seen it twice, and I say, if I could do this for you, what would stop you from enrolling today? What would stop you from signing up today? Because I believe we lose 10% of momentum every day we don't take action. So what I do is I'm very clear in my beliefs. I'm very clear in what kind of person I'm looking for. I'm very clear in what I say to the market. And what I basically do is attract other people that believe the same things I do.
And you're only looking for people who are looking for you.
That's right. I'm only looking for people that are looking for me. So the guy this morning, he said, I just don't know if I felt it the way I need to feel it. It's okay. There's no rejection there. Hey, I'm only looking for people looking for me. But I can tell, here's what I said, but I can tell you, there's people in that room are doing 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 times what you're doing. So they know something that you don't know, and they've hired me as their coach. So what does that say about your thinking today? That you you know what I mean? So, but listen, I got a lot of conviction. Listen, by the end of the conversation, here's what the guy said. You know what? I think we are going to be coaching together at some point in the future. Okay, look, it's okay if you do. It's okay if you don't. It's not my potential. It's yours. But if I could
it's not my potential.
Yeah. If I could get you a 43% increase, what would stop us from at least getting started? So then I find the real objection, and the real objection is money, insecurity, fear. Listen, the only two reasons people don't take action on anything is fear and uncertainty. They're afraid of something. That fear creates an uncertainty, vacillation, insecurity. And once you find out what it is and say, look, I could help you here. Okay, there's no judgment on me that you got credit card debt. There's no judgment for me on this. If I could help you, what would stop you from doing this?
Lots of good stuff here, Coach. If you're listening to this, I hope you're taking notes. I mean, lots of good stuff.
That can apply to everyone's business.
A great coach is pouring into people.
Yeah.
Coach Burt says he's only looking for people who are looking for him. And so if you're listening to this, there's an inherent amount of responsibility with a statement like that, right? In other words, if I'm committed to the goals that I'm trying to achieve, and if I believe that I'm only looking for the people who are looking for me, then the onus is on me to go find enough people to get to the people who are looking for me. Right, Coach?
That's why you got to go through 30 to find 4.8.
Yeah, you got to kiss a lot of frogs.
You got
to kiss a lot of frogs to go find the prince, and there's nothing wrong with kissing a whole bunch of frogs.
You got to get the frogs in front of you to pucker them up.
That's right, and there's nothing in the world wrong with that. I love what you said also. Real intense, but real positive. Wow. And lucky number 13 is on the way. What's next for Coach Michael Burt?
What's next is we're certifying people around the country in my content to be facilitators of our content so they can have their own monster producer pods. We went through a certification this weekend with people from Phoenix, Memphis, Mount Juliet. And so basically they will be facilitating my content in their area. And there's financial incentive for them. If they get 30 people in the program, they can make another $50,000 a year. If they get 40 people, they can make another $83,000. And basically we're trying to multiply our message so that when I'm teaching Monster Producer Live the first Friday of every month, there's thousands and thousands of people that are gathering around the country and participating in that program.
Great and
awesome. That's awesome, Coach. One of the other big takeaways here that we brushed over, and I hope somebody wrote this one down. One of the things you said, Coach, is you don't consult your feelings before you go. Before you go after, you don't consult with your feelings, right?
I don't ask for permission.
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you a trick. I work out at 5 a.m. in the morning with a trainer. He's also on my sales team right now, and there's a trick I learned from Mel Robbins. She wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule, and she said, look, when you get in a tough spot and you don't want to do something, just backtrack 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and do it. So at 4:30 when I get up, I don't want to get up. My feelings are telling me to lay in bed, cancel, whatever. And I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bam, pop up. It's just a little mental trick that you can, anytime you don't want to do something, you just backtrack it in that one thing. And so I do things all day long I don't feel like doing, but I feel like are necessary to do for me to distribute my talents to the world. And if I've got clarity about my B, nothing can distract me from going from where I am to where I want to go. No little thing can distract me, and feelings will distract you. I don't feel like prospecting. I don't feel like going to Memphis. I don't feel like doing this. I can't listen to my feelings if I'm going to be great. And that's how I know you're moving from an amateur to a professional, when you don't consult your feelings anymore.
And you're operating from your B at all times.
Yep. Where I'm going is stronger. My desire to move toward my B is stronger than my desire to stay where I am. And if it's not, I just stay and complain about where I am. It's got to be so strong and vivid and visual that I'm not willing to compromise my time and energy to not get there.
One thing I heard you say one time, Coach, was people are more motivated by what they will lose than what they will gain, and that really stuck with me. And I think with our programs and everything we're doing, that's exactly where we're going. We're taking, forget about what you'll lose. Forget about what you lose. Put your focus on the end game and how we're going to get there, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, you're focused on the wrong numbers many times. Well, I can't afford it. Well, I can't do this, and I say you're focused on the wrong thing. You're looking at the wrong. You're looking at the wrong piece. A good coach should redirect people's energy when they get objection, which is oppositional thought. They're constantly redirecting people. And I go, you're looking at you're playing too small. Like this morning, the guy, I'm telling him, man, you're playing too small. People in the room are doing 3, 4, 10 times what you're doing. That's what you should be focused on. How do I get myself to that level? Who do I need to hire to get myself to that level? Not focus on the monthly payment. Focus on the outcome of the investment.
Right.
So, I just think that's what a good confident coach should do for you.
And put yourself in a position to be mixing it up with people like that. Put yourself in a position so that the people that you are with are people who are achieving higher than you are, right?
That's exactly right. Listen, when we know better, we do better, guys. And many times we don't know better until we get around somebody that's doing it much better than we're doing it. And you got to put yourself in a position to prosper. Put yourself around people thinking at higher levels that will challenge you to go, man, I'm playing so small compared to what I could be playing.
Coach Burt, really good stuff, sir. It's very nice to mix it up with somebody who believes the same things that we believe, and I appreciate so much you being with us. Anybody who wants to contact you, they can find you at CoachBurt.com.
CoachBurt.com, and they can find anything I do there. I would encourage them to come one time for free. Check out Monster Producer, either in person or online. Experience the energy, experience the vibrant network, experience what we're teaching people, and come in there and just get yourself back in a dynamic state. You got big goals, you need somebody to help push you to get those, and I want to be that person for people.
Coach Michael Burt, the super coach. Coach, thanks so much. Appreciate you contributing to this series where it's all about happier clients, better results, making more money, and enjoying the ride. Thank you very much, Coach.
God bless you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you staying.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.